Let's get a SDL window going on Linux. So I'm on a Debian version of Linux. This is MX Linux. Super free, super awesome. Go get it if you don't have it, or use whatever Linux you currently have. So we have a terminal, and what we're going to do here is just go sudo apt-get install live SDL2 dev. Okay, so that's the main requirement. We've already got it installed, but you'll go through the install if you don't have it installed. So the next thing we want to do is just create a directory. I'm going to change directory into my projects, and I'm just going to make dir SDL2 demo. So then I'm just going to go into there, SDL2 demo, and then I'm just going to open this with an editor. You can use whatever editor you want. I'm just going to use Visual Studio Code. So here we are with a fresh instance of Visual Studio Code and a new project, just an empty folder. Let's go ahead and make a folder just called src for source. So I'm going to do CMake here, and CMake has a quick start, so we'll just click that and use our GCC compiler and enter a name for the new project. This is SDL2 demo. And this can be either a library or an executable. In our case, we're going to do an executable. So there we go. It gives us C-test and CPAC and all that stuff going. We are going to not use C-test. Comment that out. I'm going to comment out enable testing. I'm going to comment out this set CPAC stuff because we're not going to be installing anything. We just want it to run. Just gives us a really basic project with an executable and a main here. We're going to actually move our main into source. Yes, please. So let's just make sure it runs. So I'm going to hit F7 here and basically just run the CMake stuff and press F5 to run. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay. This is more of what we wanted. It's named SDL2 demo. It doesn't have a .out or anything. SDL2 underscore demo. Course, build folder, and then SDL2 demo. Yeah, that should work. And we should see like a hello world in our little terminal down here. There it is, hello world. Okay, we should be able to make a window. Now, getting a window going is actually pretty easy. I'm not going to type all the code manually. Instead, I'm just going to open Google Chrome. I'm going to just search in Google for SDL2 window tutorial. So basically I just don't want to have to retype the code over, because there we go. Alright, so as you can see, there's some code here. We're basically just going to grab this and we'll just copy it all, and I'm just going to paste it in here. And just with that, we should be able to reconfigure, recompile, and run. It says it doesn't see SDL. Okay, yeah, this is not where it is. It's just where it is on their demo. But for us, it is right there. So we'll try to rebuild and see what it says. And it's going to have a linker error because it's not linked to the library. So it's going to say undefined reference. Yeah. So it sees the headers, but it doesn't see. It just doesn't know where the library is, basically. So we have to tell it that in our CMake. I'll get rid of this CPAC stuff and C-test, make it a little cleaner. We just need to do, let's see, target link libraries. SDL2 demo is the target, and we want to link it to, but it doesn't say anything about the linker here, what you need to do to link. So let's just do it real quick. SDL window, SDL2 link. He's got it. Yeah, there it is. It's SDL2 main. So we don't need this L in CMake. If you're manually putting the line like they're doing on that, then you do. But I'm just going to use SDL2 main and SDL2. It'll automatically do the rest because CMake does that for us. So now we'll rebuild it, and we should get a successful build here at this point. And when we hit F5, we should get a window popping up from that sample code. F5 to run. Pressed it twice. That hopefully doesn't bug anything out. There we go. We got an SDL window. And see if we can find some interesting demos. Let's see like SDL2 demo code, and let's see if we can find something cool. The most common thing to do is either get some 2D graphics going, like this guy from Let's Make Games has a little tutorial where basically you get started just like so. You get a window going, and then you can start doing stuff. There's a lot of them up here. Let's go Linux OpenGL SDL2 demo. Here we go. So let's look at this code and observe it. And yeah, there we go. There we go. And now if we press F, we should get some full screen toggling. Doesn't look like that's happening. Not sure why. But it does move around. And now we can try to resize the window here and see what happens. Nope, it just drags around. So there's some oddities going around here. Okay, well, I stepped away for a while and I worked on this and got it working up to a proper demo, because that code I was just looking at from that random repo is, well, it doesn't work. So here is an actual working version. So I'll show you it first, and then here we go. Go ahead and update the build and then run it. Okay, so basically what I added is I fixed the full screen. I set it to the F11 key because I think that makes a lot more sense. So F11 puts it into full screen like so. I know, just bright and pink right now. And I also set F10 to resize and flip between window sizes. So I only got 2 window sizes supported, but something I learned about SDL as I was doing some research is it does not support on-the-fly resizing. So there's no dragging the edges of the window with SDL. That is just something that is not supported because of a bug. And I did link to the Stack Overflow of someone else talking about that somewhere in here, so it's in the code. And the code is now going to be linked below in a GitHub repo, so you don't have to listen to me blab through all this. You can just thumbs up this video and go look at that code. But I'm going to walk through it all so that you can understand it too. And so here we go. I will just start from the top, I guess, and I will explain everything. Let's go ahead and stop the current code. So everything else is mostly the same. I did add this resize callback. This is optional though, as I'll talk about. Basically, this is just a thing that just notifies you that you're resizing, but you could actually put some functionality in here. But I was just doing this to test something, so don't worry about this resize too much unless you want to play around with it. So as usual, we declare a window. I just use this underscore in between words syntax for everything, kept everything in a main just to keep it simple. So of course we got our window that is currently a null pointer, and we have our window flags, just OpenGL. So we're going to be using just an old version of OpenGL to get started here. If I go further with this, I'll make it cooler with OpenGL. But for now, it's just about getting the window base going and kind of getting like an empty window state ready for you. So of course we try to initialize the video, make sure it doesn't fail. If it does, we print out the error and return. This should never happen, basically. And we have some initial window sizes. We're going to hold our window sizes. That way we can, as I talked about a little bit earlier, just keep the viewport and the screen size matched up. So these are just the initial sizes, and they're not const because we want to be able to resize our window. And now this enum class screen size is basically just the supported window sizes. Now usually what games do is they have like a settings menu or an options menu, and you can flip between the screen sizes. So that's what you can do, and if you want to add more support for more sizes, you can just expand this logic. Now since it does have a full screen, we want to hold the current screen size and the last non-full screen size. So when you go to full screen, we want it to remember what it was before it was full screen. So that's why we have this last non-full screen size. So we just start holding 2 screen sizes. Basically we always operate off the current one, but when we go into full screen and we flip back, we don't want it to do some awkward thing. We want it to go back how it was before, so that's why we hold the old one. And of course we create the window as before. I gave it a little more useful title. Basically it just tells you what the hotkeys are, because that's just a really simple way. Right, the title of the window tells you F11 goes to full screen, F10 it goes to, well, when resize and escape quits. So now when we run it, we just we can see that. You probably saw it earlier. So that's all basically about the same. And yeah, there it is. And now when we close, it actually closes. So this add event watch is just a cool thing you can do for events. You can set a function. So this function has to exactly match this signature. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, let's keep going. So that's just something you can do to have it do something anytime you resize the window. But this doesn't work as you would think. I'll talk about that in a minute. So I also set some GL attributes. These are actually optional because we're not rendering anything with OpenGL right now, but we will need them later. So I went ahead and put them in there, and this is OpenGL 2.1, a pretty old version of OpenGL, but it's something where we can play around a little bit. We're not going to get the highest performance out of it, but we're not worried about that right now. We can get into that if people are really interested in this series continuing. I will talk more about that at a later time, but that's beyond the scope here. So of course we set the context to a GL create context text. Yeah, to our window. Wow, I really butchered that sentence, but that's the same as before too. This is our background and the GL clear color, and the viewport here is setting the size of the GL. So this is the actual OpenGL stuff, GL clear color, GL viewport. And now, before we go into our main loop, I went ahead and declared a few variables that we're going to need for our main loop specifically, which is our is running, so we know when to exit. We can use, within our logic, we can set this to false at any time to exit out of the game, out of the loop. And SDL event, I just renamed it to lowercase SDL event just to make it really obvious what it is. And that's what we're going to need for processing stuff within our loop. So we enter our main while loop, and the first thing we do is we check if there's any events. Now, if there's no events, so if it's not equal to 0, we go into here. But if it is equal to 0, then we just skip past this. So this is only if you're pressing keys or resizing the window. If you're doing something, then it checks what you're doing, basically. And now, the very first thing, this is where the previous code was really messed up. That guy had it all foobarred, to be honest. So first thing it does is it's going to see if you quit. And if you quit, it just sets is running to 0, which I'd prefer to have false here since it's a boolean directly. And it's just a little more clear. If you're setting it to 0, they might think it's an integer or something. It's just easier to read as false. Now, this is where I was playing around with the window resize, and then I found out you basically can't resize on the fly. But if you could, this would be how it would be. So if you're interested in an on-the-fly resize where you can drag the edges of the window, you should probably use GLFW. And I can talk more about GLFW in another video if there's interest, but it's basically another windowing option. But really, we can probably just delete this at this point. I'm just kind of leaving it here for... I got it checked in one code base. I'll go ahead and delete it for the next check-in because it's just not necessary. So, okay, if we quit, we false. Else if we have some kind of key down, then we check what the key down is. Well, now we do have escape is quit, so that's another thing that sets is running to false, which I'm just going to go ahead and change here. So, in F11 is going to be the thing that toggles to full screen. So we're using that enum that we were talking about earlier here. Where is she? She's up here. That just holds these 3 different values. Is the 640 is 1366 or full screen. That is just that enum. So we're just doing some logic here. Basically, this whole set of logic says, hey, if the current size is not full screen when you press F11, then go ahead and save whatever it currently is while it's not full screen, and then set it to full screen, and then call this SDL set window to full screen to do the thing. And so if that executes, it then goes to the end here, and it gets the window size and sets the viewport to the window size. So at the end of each of these window resizing, we do get the new window size and we adjust the viewport. Now, since we're kind of repeating this code, we could sort of put this in a function, but anytime we resize the window, we basically want to do this. So the else case here is if it's already full screen, then we want to set the current size back to the last non-full screen size, and then do the thing. Set window full screen, and it's basically just no flag of full screen anymore. So it'll just go back to the old size. When it gets to here, it will get the new window size that is not full screen anymore and set the viewport. So F11 just does a nice toggle of full screen with that logic, and F10 toggles screen sizes. and it notably does nothing if you're full screen. So this switches on your current screen size. If you're on full screen size, it just does a break. It just does nothing. It will still execute this get window size and get viewport, which it actually doesn't need to do if it's full screen. So that's a little bit of broken code. So it would probably be a little better like this, to be honest, but it's more lines of code, so that's why I didn't have it like that. But let's just do it like that. That's fine. Whatever. Since there is a case where we don't need to do it, let's do that. So if your current screen size is the 640, then it toggles it to the other one. Now this is just some janky logic, to be honest. It could be much improved, but it just toggles basically between these two sizes if it's not full screen. And so you have F11 and F10. So like I said before, and just a reminder, these would generally be in the options somewhere in your game where you click change screen size to whatever supported size, click OK, then your screen resets. Having it on a hotkey can be a little odd, but it gets the job done. And that's it. That's it for the hotkeys. That's the only thing we're supporting. We could add more hotkeys. Notably, the guy who had his code from that GitHub, the broken code, he had just like a plain F in here, which doesn't work. You need the SDL versions. It would, if he was doing it correctly, he would have SDL. I think it's just F or lowercase f. So that is what he should have had. But I'm not using F anymore. I'm just using F11. Very good. SDLK for key, I think, underscore, and then whatever it is. So that's what the cases are. There's no case of characters. These are actually enums. So you can see its value there as I hovered over it. Okay, so, and then after that, we go to part 2 of our main loop, which is update the screen. So you might have seen up here that part 1, well, actually, I should probably have this comment right above this while loop, because actually the part 1 is check events, not while we're in the events and doing that loop. So the part 1 is check events, and the part 2 is go ahead and update the screen. So we do a clear to clear whatever was previously on the screen. This happens super fast, 60 frames per second or more. So you clear the previous screen, you do all your updates, render your new stuff, whatever you have. Once we have OpenGL stuff in here, maybe later, we'll actually say, hey, do this. If it moved, if we had some kind of moving logic with time, we could like spin a cube or something, and we would just add its new location stuff here and tell GL to hold that. And then when we call this swap window, that is when it displays this new stuff. So with this quick loop of clear, update, swap, it'll show all your stuff super quick. And it'll just keep doing that. It'll just stay in this loop, keep checking your keys, keep rendering, and that's basically all we're doing right now. And then when you leave, if you exit that main loop, it destroys the main window and runs SDL quit, which are required to not leak memory. Honestly, not a super big deal because we're exiting right away, and it's going to destroy them when it exits the program. But if you're running like something where you have like click a button to open a window and the window opens and then you close it, but your main program's still running, you definitely want to be cleaning up. It's a good habit to get into. So let's go ahead and run this one last time. I'll do one last build with the new changes I made while I was walking through it there. Hit F5 and we can see it in action. Alright, so we'll go ahead and hit F11 here to full screen it. Now I'm going to hit F10 just to confirm that the resize doesn't do anything when I'm full screen. Okay, hit F11 again, hit F10, and yeah, toggles between those two supported sides. The viewport stays the same, and there we go. So if, for example, let's just say, what if we left this out? What if we don't do the swap window? What if we don't do the clear? Just so you can see, and of course you're welcome to play around with more stuff. But I just want to show you that basically your viewport gets all janky, and you'll just be confused. You don't see anything because it's not swapping to the new screen. It's not clearing and not swapping to the new screen. So if this is happening, then you got something going on with your clear and swap window not being in the right place. It's a very common error for people to run into. All the resize still works and everything. Of course, it's just all janky and doesn't make any sense because it's just not swapping to that new code or to the new screen. I got some double comments in here because that's what my editor did. Alright, well, thank you for watching. Hope you have some excellent luck getting your stuff going. It's really about the same on Windows and Mac, just the whole linking is a little different. I didn't make any changes to the CMake. CMake's still exactly the same as it was before, but with the CMake, it actually should work pretty fine on Windows. I think with Windows, you might have to have like window in here or something, and maybe another header for the native Windows window, but it doesn't seem to be needed here. Let me know if you have any questions. Peace out, guys.